Ndị be anyị ekenekwanụ m unu. Anyị sị ka nke onye chiri ya zelu. Anyị sị n'ụbọchị nke taa mara na anyị na mma na ihe a dị ka echi na echi ada agwụ agwụ. Otu anyị kwuru otu akọ ya dịrịrị. Ise dịka o si dị ya bụ Easter News 24 ka anyị si wetara ya bụ ozi unu je gị n'ugbu a n'iru akwụkwọ gbasata maka ya bụ ife na-eme n'obodo nọ n'ime ya anụ nwere ụwa na-azụ n'ala Igbo. Alright, ya wetara n'ụbọchị nke taa bụ one of the Biafran activists wetara anyị ozi quote Senator Abaribe Enyinia making ndị Igbo proud again in the international media. Alright, this is according to Biafran activist wetara ya bụ ozi nwanne anyị nwoke bụ Senator Abaribe Enyinia ka eji maka wee bịa n'iru akwụkwọ n'ụbọchị ihuruchi nke taa. Ọ ya amasị anyị na ya atọ ntị na ga ya bụ ife o ji maka ya wee bịa isi making Biafrans proud in international media. Alright, over to you, sir.
Well, that's a question that we're going to pose to the president of Nigeria, not to me. We have made representations concerning Nnamdi Kanu. We have also made sure that we have reached every aspect of the reachable, let me just put it that way. At a particular time, they said, oh, it has to be a national security issue. So we went and met the national security advisor, and they said, oh, it's a legal issue. We went and met the attorney general. They say, oh, he said this. And so at the point now, matter is so simple. If a judge recuses herself from a case, what the import of that recusal is that the judge is saying, because the person that is supposed to try me, you understand, no longer has a what do you mean? No longer has confidence, and I know that there is an element of bias from the person that I'm trying. So I no longer feel that the person will trust that my judgment will be fair. That is just the basis of a court to recuse itself from a case. So the point is, why would you insist that that same judge continue to try someone? So Nnamdi Kanu was right to say, no, you cannot do this. If a judge has said, no, I will not do it, give it to somebody else. It is the Federal High Court with more than 100 judges. You can try it anywhere. You can also come back to the Southeast where you claim that the matter originated from. Because it was supposed to be originated from Umuahia. There's a Federal High Court in Umuahia. You can try it there. It doesn't necessarily mean that one particular person must try it. So our conclusion is that this matter will have to be resolved politically. And to be resolved politically, we all have to meet up with the authorities in Nigeria and tell them every criminal in the Southeast has put a hook on the Biafra question and using it to perpetrate criminality. Every kidnapper, if you catch them, they say, oh, it's because they are holding Nnamdi Kanu. Those who continue to say, oh, don't come out on Mondays and others, say, oh, it's because of Nnamdi Kanu. Nnamdi Kanu himself has told us, has written it, and said, don't do sit at home anymore. Don't do all those things on my behalf. Yet, the people who want to perpetrate this mayhem on the Southeast continue to use it. So we think that if you remove that prop on which they are hooking all their criminal tendencies on, then they will have nothing else. Then you can now know a criminal from a so-called Biafran agitator. That is just the point. Right now, the Southeast is bedeviled in so many ways. And those of us who are the leaders of the Southeast, there is no single one of us that is not worried about it and that has not made any representation to that effect. So I will also use this opportunity on this my 70th birthday to appeal to the federal government to release Nnamdi Kanu there are too many groups, too many people, including governors, who have said, release him to us. Let us now take the next step. The next step is to bring peace to the Southeast. Because right now, the economy of the Southeast has tanked. So many things are not going on. People have had to readjust their lives to not working on Mondays, and that is a massive devaluing of the currency in our society. So, nothing else we can say at this moment than to continue to appeal to the federal government to do that. No, if I say that, then it will make me I'm not that important. I'm just saying, for the sake of the people of the Southeast, I will use this occasion of my birthday to also continue the appeal for Nnamdi Kanu to be released. Not for them to do anything to celebrate that way, please. Thank you. I will refer you to a video that was done, just to answer your last question. I will refer you to a video that was done by Patu Tomi. He said, at 70, you're just beginning. That's how he said. And he says, as an academic, yes, at 70 you will retire, but it's not time for you to retire, because where you are, which is in politics, that you're just beginning. It's not just because I have a good interpersonal relationship with him. We can visibly see what he's doing. Look, this is Abba. When we went to Okwa, we came back and then we were running through Abba yesterday. It was amazing. It was clean. The place is very well kept. And you can now drive from Ngwa Road and just go all the way down and you find yourself at Obo Hill. Never happened before. So when I see all the things that are happening around here, the only thing I can tell him is, please continue what you are doing, because I've also, my constituents talk to me. My constituents come and tell me, this is, in fact, all that they do now is that every day they will send me one message. This is happening in this place. Can you tell the governor for him to help us, So I'm even sorry for him, because he has already set the pace. He can't slacken anymore. Because you know what happens when you set the pace? What happens whenever you start doing so well is that people expect you to do far more, and if you slacken, then they say, he's no longer doing anything. So we will just encourage him. He's doing extremely well for Abians. I will only say this. The welfare of the people is why you were sworn into office. And if you put the welfare of the people first, which is what you took an oath of office for, then you're doing what you have sworn to do. Part of the problems in Nigeria is not people take oath of office and go away and just don't do what they are supposed to do. The Constitution is very clear. It has the areas where it says, which is the fundamental objectives of state policy. It's all there in the Constitution. The rights that Nigerians have is also there in the Constitution. So just go ahead and do those things. Sometimes people make governance look at it as if it's rocket science. I do not think so. I think it's simply pure, focused leadership. Just provide that focus and let every other thing work for itself. And of course, ensure that your subordinates key into the same vision that you have, so that as you're doing, they are also going along with you. For you to be a good politician and for you to serve your people, you must have that burning desire in you for service. You must have that desire to serve your people. I came into politics as a dare. Let me put it this way. I never came out to do politics. What happened was that sometime in 1998, and when they did that, the first elections to the National Assembly under the Abacha regime, I'll usually come home. I was in Lagos then. I was doing business. I was doing relatively well. I had taught in the university. I had worked in the corporate life, and I had now established a business for myself as an Igbo man. And I saw the persons that came out at that time to run elections, and I felt that these people, we should have a better representation than this. And so I had this mentor, a spiritual mentor. When I say spiritual, not that I see him as a spiritual, it's just that we were in the same action group in the church, and we used to discuss politics, and he was quite older than me. And when we were discussing about contemporary things, and I spoke, and I just mentioned that the set of people I saw who are trying to run it, and he said to me, you see, this is the problem with all of you who think that politics is dirty. So you leave it to those people to do, and then you come around to complain. If you think you're much better, or that you can provide much better than them, why don't you go and contest? So, number one, as you are asking, for those who want to join politics, you must have that desire. Number two, you must also be prepared to accept failure. When I came first time, I ran everywhere. I did everything they said I should do. I walked around with people, and I failed. In fact, I failed dramatically. And let me tell you how I failed. At that time, they said there were going to be primaries somewhere, and that we should all appear because they are going to do option A4 for the primaries. Then it was the party called UNCP. And so they sent me a message, the party chairman, and said this was the school where we were going to do it. I went to that school, and there was nobody there. I didn't know that they had gone somewhere else. So I sat there waiting for them. And at the end of the day, by the time I realized it, they had finished the primary somewhere else, taken the results and gone away. And so I went, you know how you normally do, we don't agree, we went to write petitions, this and that, went to do. But eventually, I came to the realization that I need to learn and didn't need to. So what I did was, I said, fine, I left it. I called everyone who was part of our team in UNCP, and we went and supported the person who won. Despite the fact that they said we didn't actually do anything. And so it didn't take a long time. I think Abacha died, the transition was cancelled, and then it was time to go again. And I still came back, which is lesson number 2. You must be consistent. If you want to do politics, you have to be in politics. You don't come back and go, or think that whenever you just come in, you will get everything on a platter of gold. In fact, I think that if you come into politics and win immediately, and then go into office, you may be prone to making a lot of mistakes. Politics teaches you about human behavior at its finest and also at its lowest. It's one of those extremes that you always see the two extremes inside it. And it's those things that I say that you need if you want to be a politician. You must have the grit, you must have the consistency and all that. And of course, the final one, money is the best friend of a politician. Never think that you will do politics without money. I've tried it, it didn't work. I've seen that you must be ready. Otherwise, you will have to mortgage yourself. You will have to sell your conscience in order to always belong and all that. And that is why you find people look at politicians and they say, these are a very, very bad set of people. They are sycophantic now. It's just that people are trying to see whether they can make way without. There is nowhere that you can get anything without hard work. Politics also needs hard work. You have to knock on doors. People will reject you. You have to continue meeting people, including those who reject you. You have to explain why you're doing A, B, or C. If they don't know your viewpoint or they don't understand where you come from or how or where you want to go, of course they will never listen. And the last thing that you need to know in politics, always tell your neighbor. What I mean by always tell your neighbor is a story that was told by a United States senator who was called a man of the house, a United States congressman. He was going around. He didn't tell the next door neighbor to him. And on the voting day, she came and voted against him. And he said, why would you vote against me? And he said, well, you have been going everywhere, but you have never told me that you're running. Always tell your neighbor that you're running. That is why you see politicians every time we are carrying drink to A, B, C, D, because somebody will just sit around and say, he never told me that he's running for anything, so why should I support him, you know? So you need to, at all times, let your constituents know where you are, how you're going, and where you want to go. As for Nigerians, I can say this, they are also very supportive. They know what is good, they know what is right, they know the best way forward. The only thing I can say at this point regarding the elections is that it will be necessary for us to remove all the human elements from an election. If there's a way we can reduce the human element, then manipulation and all that will not be there, and results will count. At the point at which we got the Electoral Act in the last elections, I think it was in Electoral Act of 2020, I think 2022, that we put in direct transmission of results from the beavers, from both the from both the polling booths and the rack centers. We thought that that had covered everything, but we never knew that there can be a glitch in the in the server for the presidential elections. So right now, I think one of the things that we have to also tinker with will be what happens if there's a glitch. Do you delay and take in whatever you get after? Or if there's a glitch, then the election will be... So those are the questions that we have to ask going forward. As for the question of whether I'm an ancestor, well, you know, in the Senate, I think there are just about 3 or 4 of us who are the longest serving senators in the National Assembly. So, just like you go to your grandfather to tell you stories about your lineage. The Senate looks at us who have spent a long time there to also guide them, because we have institutional memory to say, at this time, we were able to deal with this matter in this manner. And we think that if we apply it this time, it will probably work. But if the circumstances are different, then we can also make our recommendations. So ancestors, they call us, is not pejorative. On the contrary, it's actually them saying that they wish they will be able to stay as long as we have stayed. Well, let's just put it this way. And I've said it severally, and I will use the opportunity to tell Nnamdi Igbo, onye ajụrụ ajụ na-ajụ onwe ya. And we must continue to have this at the back of our mind. At a particular time that I was invited to chair an occasion by Aki Ikenga in Lagos, all I told everyone there was that yes, Nigeria may be holding us down in our opinion, but my opinion is simple. Onye ji mmadụ n'ala, ji onwe ya. If you're holding somebody down, you're also holding yourself. But I read an article a short while ago. It was an article by Professor Obiwakama, and he was telling a story of what happened in the 70s, where he said that the abandoned property issue and all those things were agitating the Igbos immediately after the Civil War. And somebody advised them that they should go and sue the federal government. And they felt that, that the best person to sue the federal government for them was Chief Obafemi Awolowo's chambers. So that they went to him and he said, okay, go and pay 10 million pounds into my account and let me take up the case for you. And they asked themselves, we're only giving 20 pounds, all of us. So where do we get 10 million pounds to now pay for a litigation? So if we have 10 million pounds, what are we going to be waiting for? And so they decided right there to go back and rebuild their land. And that is how the Southeast was rebuilt, by people rolling up their sleeves and then doing work. And by 1979, 9 years after the Civil War, Igbo was already a vice president of Nigeria. So that is what I recommend that we do now. Ignore these people. Use your own resources. Do for yourself what will make Igbo land the El Dorado of Nigeria. That's all we need to do. We don't need to continue looking up and waiting for people who will find reason not to do it. I think we have cried enough. I think we have shouted enough. In fact, the other day, someone was asking me, why is it that you no longer agitate so much on the floor of the Senate? I said, yes, I've done enough agitation. Now it's time for me to change course. Because Nnamdi Igbo Sina, Anwucharia Amari Igu, in the way that things have shifted, you also put shade on yourself. Now that we know that all our shouting and all our screaming and all our listening is not going to yield any fruit. That even when we started this matter of Development Commission, it was the Southeasterners. We started it in the 8th Senate and continues fighting it. But you know what happened? The Northeast got it before us. Even though we got everything done, from the time of President Buhari, that was when we got everything. They never signed it, refused to do it until this time. And of course, by the time we are now come this time, everybody now has a development commission. So, if you know that you are under that kind of election, then you also change your tactics. So I can only tell us, as Ndibo, let us work for our land. Nobody is holding our allocations away from us. Nobody stops it. It's there. Let the governors use the allocations for us. I do not think that I can give much, except to say that for every politician, ethical behavior is also very, very necessary. And then, of course, moderation in everything that you do is also necessary. I think one of the things that I personally also will condemn now is the fact that it seems that our people are more of content creators than people who do real things. And because of the internet generation and because everybody is going on either Instagram or Facebook or all that, so there's so much I would say drive to be more outrageous than the other. That's not for a politician, because for every politician, your reach is so wide that every tinge of or small tinge of any misbehavior on your part that will be forgiven by any other person, or any other person who is not a politician will never be forgiven to a politician, because for a politician, you are in the public eye always. And there are people who also want your seat, so they are going to be looking out for anything that happens. So I will tell every politician, be moderate in your views, be moderate in the things that you do, and also be, I would say, you also have to think about your constituents. Showing off does not help you, doesn't help anybody. As far as I'm concerned, I think that those who do not have confidence in themselves, they need to get confidence in material things. I don't think that is right. As for going to the motherless babies, I also, it's not the first time we're going. It's just that this is our birthday, and we felt that they should also felicitate with us that we, who are the I would say well-to-do now, that there are also vulnerable people in our society who deserve to be looked after. In fact, in we saw some baby Grace that clung to me so much, and I was just telling the lady, say, please, after, let us talk about what to do about this baby. It's I think Christ said that when you're doing something with your left hand, you do not let your right hand know. So part of the bane of our society today, I think, is the fact that we think that our right hand must know what the left hand is doing. And so when you're doing any charity work, you must bring it to the public. It has been a very big problem for me as a Christian in politics, how to balance the need for you to act in a Christian-like manner in your dealings with people, and then the need for your constituents to know what you're doing. So I've had occasions where even those that I have extended help hands, I come out publicly to say, he never did anything for me, And I take it as a matter of course, because that is part of what you see in life. So I wanted the vulnerable people, the motherless babies and all that, to also have some cheer this season, as I'm having my own cheer, to pray with them and ask God to also line their path with the best that could come. As for political parties and all that, I think that is normal. What has happened in Nigeria today is that we have suddenly become a litigious society all of a sudden. Because we have become a litigious society, for every little thing somebody runs to court. So where there used to be party discipline, where people used to listen to party dictates and also follow the party guidelines, you also see that for every little thing somebody will run into a court, and the courts are also very quick to grant all manners of that's a story for another day. But for me, I think that there are a lot to decry in what is going on in some parties. My sincere feeling is that if you don't like where you are, step aside from there. You don't stay inside where you are and continue to make life difficult for everybody within that. It's very salutary that those who are in the midst of affairs that happen in Nigeria will one day tell their story. So I think Babangida has told his story, and out of his story there are a lot of snippets that come out of it. I'm one of those who think that we shouldn't throw away the baby with the bathwater, so we can take some things out of his story. But I think that some of the things that he said do not exactly gel. And one of the things that I don't agree with him is he cannot tell me that he can't be commander-in-chief and somebody else is pulling the strings behind. That is not what are you a commander-in-chief for if somebody else will be pulling the strings and deciding what happens in your own government? That is, by the way, anyway, the fact of that it was not an Igbo coup in 1966. I think that's a fact that everyone knew. All that happened was that people who wanted to look for an opportunity to deride the Igbo nation, to find fault with the Igbo nation, simply turned everything around, and the story has always been there. If you read his book, he said it. This is why we struck, and he said clearly there, we all came together in the national interest in order to make Obafemi Awolowo president. He said it clearly, and everyone knows. But throughout the history of Nigeria, there has always been the fact that every little thing that concerns the country, they use the Igbo head to want to solve the break the coconut of Nigeria. That's all that happens. So all the pogroms that happened from the 1950s to the 60s, at any time that there's any little thing, they say, where are the Igbos, so that you will kill them and blame them. So the fact that Babangida now says, oh, it wasn't an Igbo, it's a fact that we know, and it's a fact that we accept. What it will do for us is simple. Anytime anybody shows up with that type of narrative anymore, we will tell him that, well, go back to all the sources, including Babangida's book. You will see that what you're saying is correct. So that is one prop against the Igbos that has now been removed. But we're still waiting for that book by General Gowon, because he was a dramatist personnel and a person that was part of making sure that
ndị be anyị nwadalụ nenu ka ifu nwere ikwu gbasata maka ya bụ ife ndị a niile nwanne nwoke rụtọgasị aka n'elu akwụkwọ kọwagasịa ife dị iche iche gbasata maka ya bụ okwu Maazị Nnamdi Kanu kwuru ụbọchị nke gara aga wee sị na onweghị jọọjị ga-atụ ya nga n'obodo a. Alright, what do you have to say? Drop it on the comment section below. Nke dị ka ibe ya bụ ebe anyị si wenetara onye bụ ozi a bụ Eastern News 24. Ka emesịa na ụmụnne m.